Welcome back to the 94 podcast. My name is Kosi. Welcome back to a brand new video. Manchester United are in a deep crisis, and the big question that we are answering in this video: who is to blame for the crisis at Manchester United? Erik ten Hag has actually said that part of the blame has to go to the Glazers because every other club has spent money, every other club has brought in good players apart from Manchester United. He also says that another part of the blame has to go to the market because whenever Man United were trying to sign players, every single club was raising their prices, they were skyrocketing at their prices, and therefore Manchester United were outpriced on very good players. Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. Let me know in the comment box below who is actually to blame for the crisis at Manchester United, for the lack of wins, for the lack of coordination, for the lack of identity, for the lack of morale, for the poor displays we are seeing, but also everything going on. You look at Jadon Sancho, look at Anthony, you look at all these injuries. It looks like it's all going down at Manchester United, and it's all going down under the watch of Erik ten Hag. Is Erik ten Hag making ridiculous excuses that the Glazers have not backed him and therefore that's why he's actually failing at the job? Is he making ridiculous excuses that the market was unfair to Manchester United and therefore that's why they didn't bring in good players? Is he actually being serious? Let's dive into it. Now, let's start off with the Glazers because they've been the common problem, and it looks like every single manager and every single person that is failing to do their job at Man United will eventually hide under the mask of the Glazers. Now, there's no question about Glazers letting Manchester United down. They have literally run this club into the mud. They have literally run this club into a wormhole. And if you're a Manchester United fan, if you're a person who has followed football for quite some time, you will understand and you will agree with me. The Glazers are some of the worst owners or worst custodians of a football club in the UK in centuries, in decades. They've actually done them dirty. But we've got to ask the question as well. The Glazers have brought in Anthony. The Glazers have brought in Casemiro. The Glazers have brought in Rasmus Hojlund. The Glazers have brought in Lisandro Martinez. They have given you Andre Onana. You have Bruno Fernandes, one of the best creative players in the Premier League. You have Marcus Rashford. You have Alejandro Garnacho. I think this Manchester United side should do much better than it is doing now, whether it is the Glazers in charge of Manchester United or not. The squad they have, the quality they have, does not warranty and does not guarantee those poor performances. So Erik ten Hag, for me, in my case, cannot hide under the Glazers all the time. I mean, he's spoken about them a lot of the time. Man United didn't buy, Man United didn't get this player, Man United didn't get the backing like all these other clubs. I think it's a very dangerous play he's doing to go and throw his owners under the bus just by saying, well, I don't want to take the whole blame on myself, on my shoulders. Let me go and scapegoat the Glazers. Make no mistake, no one is actually scapegoating the Glazers. They do have a huge part in the crisis at Manchester United. They have a very big role. For example, the manager asked for Frenkie de Jong. He was very clear. He wanted Frenkie de Jong. They gave him Casemiro, and his playing style and everything, he has run out of gas, he's run out of leg, right? Is Frenkie de Jong a much better player for what Erik ten Hag wants to do? Absolutely. Is Casemiro good? Absolutely. But is he the player that the manager wanted? There's no question about that. He was never Erik ten Hag's number one choice, right? So the Glazers have got to understand this. If you want to stay as custodians at Manchester United, if you want to be the custodians of Manchester United, it's a no-brainer. You've got to invest in the club. You've got to find a way of channeling funds into this club. You've got to find a way of making sure that Man United can compete with Bayern, with Madrid, Barcelona, with Inter Milan, with Arsenal and Man City. And how do you do that? You've got to channel funds into Manchester United. It's a no-brainer. The fact that they've not done that, the fact that they have recruited very poorly, right, and that comes from the management they have chosen to run this club on their behalf, the fact that they have brought in people that cannot understand that you don't pay 80 million for Harry Maguire, you don't just pay hundreds of millions on Anthony. The moment they've not actually made sure that Man United is a properly well-run club, they actually cannot run away with it. They cannot run away from this problem, and therefore I agree with Erik ten Hag that the Glazers have a big role, a big part to play in the crisis and the demise of Manchester United at the moment. But let's talk about Erik. You know how much I rate Erik ten Hag if you're a big fan of this channel, and you will understand how much I rate him when you become a big fan of this channel by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. So ten Hag is one of the managers that we gave a lot of praise last campaign, and that praise was fully deserved. he came in and made Manchester United the club we know today. He introduced a culture, he introduced a style of play, he introduced an identity for Man United, and I think many Man United fans will be going, wow, has actually turned Manchester United around. Although the performances are not coming at the club, although United are losing games, losing 3 out of 5 so far, you could feel that there is that element of togetherness in the team. You could feel that there's that element of we are Manchester United, and that is courtesy of Erik ten Hag. So I love Ten Hag and I really rate him as a manager. But then there are questions to Erik ten Hag, and there's so many things that he's got to answer, and that's why I don't think the biggest problem at Man United is only the Glazers. As manager, I think Erik ten Hag has failed this campaign to pick his best 11. He's failed this campaign to go with the best players and players playing on merit rather than players that have to be there. For example, the truth is Marcus Rashford in that Brighton game in the second half has to come off before Rasmus Højlund. Look, he takes off Rasmus Højlund because he's not yet ready to play 90 minutes. Everyone understands that. Like, it's not a tactical decision, but it's a technical one. You've got to protect your player. You've got to protect the only good striker you have in the team. So that I understand, right? I really, really do. What I don't understand with Erik ten Hag, and what I don't agree actually with Erik ten Hag, is why you take Rasmus Højlund off, who is actually doing very well, before you take off Marcus Rashford. Rashford has to come off first. Garnacho has to come on, because we know the kind of impact Garnacho has always given Man United off the bench. We know the kind of impact Garnacho has always provided with this team when he comes off the bench. He can impact games. He can create scenarios that you didn't think could actually be created. So for me, Erik ten Hag has got to find his best 11. Andre Onana in goal, I agree with that. Absolutely, he's your number one at Manchester United, no one else. Bissaka at right back. Then at left back, Reguilon or Dalot, I don't know. I mean, Reguilon is also not that bad. We've only seen him for one game. Then Lisandro Martinez alongside probably Lindelof. That could be the better, partnership at the moment for Man United. In midfield, he played McTominay, he played Eriksen, then he played Bruno on the right-hand side, and then he played, I think, Eriksen, Bruno, Casemiro, and Scott McTominay. Is that Manchester United's strongest 11 that we saw against Brighton? I don't think so. I think Garnacho, with everything going on with Anthony, with everything going on with Jadon Sancho, Garnacho deserves a chance to start for Man United. Garnacho deserves a chance to be playing regularly because he's shown that he's a player that can actually give Man United a way forward, right? And then the other thing is the substitutions. I've not understood his substitutions on the Arsenal game. I think he loses the game courtesy of bringing on Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans. I think that is where he loses the game. At Brighton, I don't think his substitutions were trying to win the game. His, substitutions were literally killing the game. And if you have to play against the best teams in Bayern, the best teams in Madrid, all this quality, right? If you're going to go against the big boys, the quality sides, how are you really going to convince the fans? How are you really going to convince the people that you're the right guy to take Manchester United on the big stage in the UEFA Champions League? So Erik ten Hag, for me, has got to take part of the blame as why Manchester United are losing games. But there is one party that people don't talk about enough, because these guys cannot get sacked. These guys cannot take the blame. And that part is the players. Manchester United players, if I was manager, if these guys were under Pep Guardiola, I think within the next 3 windows, this team will be cleared. The players at Manchester United have a bogus bullshit mentality. There's no better way to put it. This is not radio, this is not TV, this is not mainstream, this is unfiltered. The players at Man United have a bullshit, bogus mentality. When they went 1-0 down to Brighton at the Old Trafford, imagine, at the Old Trafford, it was game over. Actually, before Manchester United conceded, because before they conceded, they controlled the major parts of the game, they had possession, and Brighton struggled a little bit with, you could see Pascal Gross and Mahmoud Daoud struggling to get the real grip of the game. The only players that were actually active was Adingra, because Brighton were trying to catch Manchester United on the break in the first maybe 30 minutes or maybe 20 minutes. But the moment Brighton score, the game changes. The game tilts into favor of Brighton. They control possession, they control everything in the game. They win the first ball, they win the second ball, they win every 50-50. Now, when a club comes to your home ground, leads by a goal to nil, and they are controlling every 50-50 challenge, for me, it's game over, guys. It's game over, right? You can't allow that to happen. You can't be just that gullible. You just can't be that weak. The mentality is absolutely poor. Very, very poor. I don't know. I could compare them to no club right now in the Premier League, because yesterday Sheffield United actually led a game against Tottenham Hotspur in from Tottenham Hotspur, and Tottenham Hotspur, actually, to show you that their mentality is still on, Tottenham went and, you know, equalized and won that game. The same happened to Liverpool. They go down, they come back and win it. The same happened to Man City. They go down and come back and win it. The same happened to Aston Villa. They go down and come back and win it. It's only Man United that went down and the players gave up on the ambition of the team. They just gave up, right? They just went, wow, this is bad. We've lost the game. So for me, the players have got to be blamed as well. Everyone talks about Harry Maguire, how bad Harry Maguire is, how bad this guy, you know, is, cannot play for Man United and all that. For me, the question is, are the players that played in that game giving Manchester United any better performances? So, Lisandro Martinez, catastrophic yesterday, right? Casemiro, absolutely catastrophic yesterday. So you think about all these guys and you're like, really? Do Man United have a quality starting 11? Do they have quality in that lineup? I just don't see it. I really don't see it. I think the players have got to lift themselves. The players have got to, you know, work on that problem. You can't, every single time that you go a goal down, you just can't give up. You just cannot give up, right? We saw it against Nottingham Forest. They went 2 goals down. They came back in that game against Brighton. It was a walk in the park. It was so easy for Brighton, right? It showed that Man United players had given up on the game. They were literally just waiting for whatever happens, right? They were literally going, okay, if we concede more, the manager will understand. I don't think that's acceptable, in my opinion. I really don't think that's acceptable. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the Manchester United crisis so far. I think there's so many things to blame here. There's so many parties to blame. But if you're Man United, the person and people you want to blame at the moment are the players, the Glazers, and the manager Erik ten Hag. He's got to pick his best 11. He's got to do match analysis much better, and he's got to find a way to get these Manchester United players going in a good fashion. Absolutely. I'll speak to you right in the next one. See you.